He had all 5 bottles of wine lined up, and he said, "I'm trying to figure out what's in this bottle." "This is so much more important to you than me." I'd like to say that the lights went off for me and I was completely done. Really, all I wanted to do was get through that conversation with him so I could drink some of it.
The first time my mother went into any type of treatment program, I was 10 or 11. She bounced around between several over the next few years.
I was able to stay sober for about 6 months. Feel so good about how I felt and how well I was doing, reward myself with a drink. Then I was back into full-blown alcoholism.
My dad told me that it wasn't fair, but I was going to have to grow up, and that, from 12 on, I'd have to be an adult. It was December 18th, and it was probably 3:30 or 4 in the morning, and she had been detoxing at home without medication, and we ended up at a hospital pretty early in the morning.
I was in a little cubicle by myself, and I remember a doctor walking in. He looked at me and he said, "Mrs. Stanley, have you ever had the thought that your family would be better off without you?" It was a dumb question. I looked at him and said, "Of course I have. I'm a drunk. I mean, of course they'd be better off without me." And that was probably the truest thing I've ever said up to that point. And those were the magic words that he needed to be able to involuntarily commit me.
I certainly didn't think I'd, see my mom tossed on the floor and, hogtied like a criminal. That was a pretty brutal day.
That was the moment that I probably had the first really serious, like, epiphany, like, this is not the life that God intended for me. My son deserves better than this.
I guess you could say that was when it stuck, because that was the last time she had a drink was 48 hours before that incident.
That's how I got to Freedomhouse. Here at Freedomhouse, I was exposed to all of these things that helped me start to fill that hole that alcohol left in me. I started to fill it with being around other people that were on the same journey, meeting other women and men that had lost so much, and finding out that they were such incredible people.
For her, it did a lot of good being surrounded with people that were struggling, and it gave her a purpose, and it gave her an understanding.
I started cooking while I was still living here. I cooked the meals for this campus for the last 2 months I was here. 3 or 4 weeks before it was time for me to leave, they approached me about actually becoming an employee after I left. I knew that I could come back here every day and have that support system around me. I've been here ever since in some capacity.
Her work at Freedom House, since her sobriety and since her stay here, has changed more lives than she'll probably ever be able to fathom or understand.
We don't give up on the folks that come to us. We want to give them every shot to get their life back together. We want to see them blossom into the human being that they're intended to be. And I always say the same thing. I'm so glad to see you. I'm so glad you're here, because that means you've got another shot at it. Let's do it this time. If you love someone that's an alcoholic or an addict, don't give up on them. We're not disposable people. We have a disease that we have to learn how to manage, but don't give up.